Thanks, Lance. Wow, you are right. The lights up here are a little bright. So let's see, perfect. Okay, we'll walk this way. So Tim Brown, I am the CISO for SolarWinds. I've been there for 8 years now. So a very long time when you consider a CISO. And about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago is really when we had our big incident. I'm going to talk about that incident, give you a sense of kind of what went on through it, how kind of culture affect our recovery from that incident and where it went, because culture plays an important role, and one of the most important roles in kind of where and how you go forward from things. So I've been doing security for about 30 years or so in different forms, different ways. So let's talk a little bit about Saturday, December 12th. So security team's nightmare. So around 10 in the morning, it's Saturday, it's before Christmas, we're all getting ready. All of those things are happening. I get a call from my CEO that says, hey, I just got a call from Kevin Mandia, and he says we've shipped tainted code. And with that, everything kind of just went a little crazy. It was like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a call from Charles, their CTO, and he's going to talk through details. In those details, we were able to quickly assess that, yes, it happened. So normally when you have one of these big incidents, you have to look, you have to research, you have to decide, hey, is this true? Is it real? Did it really happen? In this case, we got enough information, basically decompiled code. We looked at that decompiled code. We said, that's not ours. We had shipped it. And from there, everything kind of went into kind of just high velocity time, trying to start off and figure out what do you do next. So we started off with war rooms. Started off with war rooms remotely. Remember, this is in the middle of COVID. So we're all working remotely. We get people on the phone. We look to figure out, how true is this? What happened? Research the first day. The other part of Kevin's message was, this has been leaked to the press, not by us, and it's going to go live tomorrow. So we had 1 day to put out information, 1 day to pull together what we could. As a public company, we needed to, before the market opened on Monday, put out statements. So that's how short a period of time that we had to deal with things. So first day, controlled chaos. We learned as much as we could, as quickly as we could. We had people on the phone, we had conference calls, we had teams running. Next day, we found out that our Microsoft O365 was also compromised. So we couldn't trust Teams, we couldn't trust email, we couldn't trust how we normally communicate. So we had to do alternate communication. So what did day one look like? So day one started with a bang, figuring it out, then figuring out what went on, then coming together in virtual war rooms with people from around the company. We brought in DLA Piper is our legal partner, external legal partner. They happen to be the largest legal firm in the world, but they have a great cyber team. The cyber team came in, and then we brought in CrowdStrike as a threat hunt partner. That happened again on Saturday. Saturday, we got the B team from CrowdStrike. We figured out what it was. We got the A team on Sunday. So we knew we knew a number of different things, right? The threat actors were sophisticated. They had affected a few builds. They had affected 3 builds. They produced different codes, so very thoughtful in what they did. We involved FBI, we involved CISO, we involved all of those things. So we knew quite a bit at the end of that first day, or the end of the first couple days. We ended up being able to publish things basically on Sunday. Sunday, everybody came in. So everybody came into the office. So we had war rooms set up upstairs in one part of our office and downstairs in another for overflow. And we sat together and we worked through things. We finally issued our 8K about 2 in the morning on Sunday or Monday early in the morning before the markets open. And we basically told everybody what we knew. And the world went on fire that next day. So if you look on Sunday and Monday, Sunday late afternoon, we end up on TV. I think we got a notice on 60 Minutes on Sunday night. Monday, we're on the cover of every newspaper. So really just crazy intense. So the experience is really an asset. So whenever you have something like this, you may think you know what you're doing, but it's important to bring other folks in. Cross-functional teams on a moment notice. You need to have them. You need to be prepared to be able to get people in a room or on a phone. A single team can't manage this type of response. You really need to have a global team. You also need to have somebody coordinating it. My team normally handles incident response. And in a case like this, we were thrilled to have the DLA team really acting as a quarterback, because the team is so busy doing so many things. Very important to have somebody else kind of looking from the outside and giving you guidance. Be prepared. This is only the beginning. You should just know it's going to take a long time. What about culture? The CEO really set the tone. And in most cases, the CEO is used to setting the tone for the company. They're used to setting that, here's how we go forward. So it's important that the CEO, if they're kind of not prepared for this, they get prepared for it and they run through scenarios. But that tone that they set at day one, this was Kevin Thompson, our CEO at that time, and he set that tone of customers first. How do we get our customers right? How do we get our customers right? How do we get our customers right? At that point in time, we thought, we knew we had shipped 18,000 copies. We didn't know how many were affected, but that's the number we put out. So we've got 18,000 customers all having tainted code. We don't know if the threat actor is still active. We don't know if our customers are still at risk. We don't know any of that. So customers first, customers first, customer first. And that was really the tone that was set. We all had team jobs to do. We rallied around it. It was really just a culture of do everything you can and then help everybody else that you can. So it's not a go it alone mentality, right? And you have to remember the people that are the leaders often want to just manage your things, manage everything. But in this case, we realized that, hey, we're not the experts in response. We've got great teams that are the experts in response. Let's let them in and let's help them. The other part to remember is people are going through something as well. So it's not just the breach, it's not just the response, it's all the people around the outside. So a little bit about, kind of what I was feeling, because it was, interesting, right? So every CISO that had gone through one of these was fired, very common. So am I going to get fired, right? Well, maybe, right? And the way I tell people is that if you don't have the skills that I needed on December 11th were very different than the skills that I needed on December 12th. If I didn't have those skills, then it would have been necessary for the board to replace me or augment me. And they did augment me, but that would have been necessary. So you have to have some emotional maturity in this and say, I got a job to do. If you have to let me go, you have to let me go, but we've got a job to do to get through this. So shock, how do I fix this, right? What can I do to help? All of those things came into play. And the key tenet is help us move forward, right? Help the customers, get to a state where it's known, communicate to them as clearly as we can, and start moving forward. So weeks. So the next weeks are crazy. This is right before Christmas. This is everything is going on. The world goes on fire. We have so SolarWinds. For those who don't know, we're an IT service company. We're a product company, observability company. We sell products. So we have somewhere around 200,000 to 300,000 customers. We operate all around the globe. So our support queues are going like crazy, as you can imagine, right? I think I remember like 18,000 in our queue of people calling. So the whole company really rallies behind how do we help? right? So, you know, engineering figuring out what builds were affected and how we help it and how we fix. You know, IT was working on figuring out, okay, how did they get in? Are they still there? All of those things going on. We split each other up into multiple teams, or else actually DLA did the split up, which was great. And then we put the leaders of those teams being like the head of engineering ran this team, the head of IT or CIO ran this team, the head of legal ran these teams. So being able to split up made us efficient. So split up and work together to be able to move us forward as kind of quickly as we possibly can through this. The other thing you have to expect is that, you know, the company that has this event occurring is not going to talk to the press. So the press will find others to talk to. So the amount of misinformation is out there is pretty incredible, right? Just, you know, you'll have misinformation. But if you spend all the time fighting that misinformation, you know, you'll basically fail. So lessons learned, you'll be outnumbered, outmarketed. More researchers that know a lot more than you do will be communicating. All of this stuff will happen. You know, one of the things always to remember from a kind of culture perspective, you're going through a rough time, but your customers are also going a rough time. You know, we ruined so many people's Christmas that year. It wasn't just ours. It was the world's, right? Because the world is trying to figure out, am I affected? At the end of the day, when we had 18,000 customers affected or had the tainted version, we ended up with under 100 customers that actually had negative effects on that. They had negative effects of being able to research, but the code never got activated in their environments. But it could have. And at this point, we believed it could have, right? So bring in the correct partners, create exploration modes, you know, focus on sharing what you know. So culture, what about from a culture perspective? We had to have trust between each one of our leaders. Those groups needed to work independently and be able to be accountable for what they did. And we needed not to think twice that they wouldn't. So I knew the marketing teams had it. I knew the engineering teams had it. I knew the IT teams had it. So I knew each one of those were doing it. So what was I doing across this? I was running across each one of these groups. I was filling in wherever I could. I was helping with different things. I was pushing forward with information. I was talking to hundreds and hundreds of customers and other things. Anybody that wanted to talk to you, I would talk to, right? So we had countries calling us at this point. And yes, countries can call you. So what do countries ask? So countries ask things like, so Project Warp Speed was the development of the COVID vaccine. Was anybody associated with Project Warp Speed affected? That was a question we get from US government. From UK, we would get something slightly different. From Switzerland, something different. So countries would call you. Then your most important and largest companies of the world would call you. Everybody wants to talk. They want to understand, am I affected? They want to understand what you know about the threat actor. Could the threat actor be doing something else? So communications at this point, very, very important. Now, from a legal perspective, communication difficult, right? So, and sometimes uncomfortable. But with our scripts, what we were publishing and what we were publishing on our website was almost exactly what we were talking to customers about. So we weren't going off script, but people wanted to talk. They wanted to feel. They wanted to be able to, you know, voice their frustration and voice their concerns. And you had to give them that kind of model to be able to do that. So we were on a huge outreach to try to communicate to everyone possible in the right way. So board is also supportive during this, right? So board is, you know, very much, I got notes from the board, just, you know, keep going. I got notes from the board, thank you. I got notes from the board and others on this. So tremendous amount of pressure, little time for sleep, too much to do. People often ask, why do you have to be up till 2 in the morning every morning? right? So during the day, we're doing calls and we're meeting with people and we're meeting with FBI and we're meeting with CISO and we're meeting with everybody during the day. Then all the documentation that we were putting out had to get reviewed. So we would start documentation review around 10 at night and then finally approve everything that's going to get posted by about 1 or 2 in the morning. So then you start over again the next morning. And even if you didn't do that, you were up at 1:30 because you couldn't sleep. So I basically moved, we have apartments next door, corporate apartments. So I moved into there for about 2 or 3 weeks. And we basically took off Christmas Day, but that was it until New Year came up. So that's the kind of things that are going on. So from a culture perspective, what helped? Common objectives and really work towards those. So our theme of customer first and taking care of the customer at the expense of everything else was, first off. So that theme allowed us to kind of survive the, legal had questions about whether we were going to, share as much as what we did. Well, we got to take care of the customer. So we have to share, right? So those things put a good context into place. Put the correct people in the leadership spots. Bring them together often. So we got together, I guess board meetings were 10 o'clock at night. We were together at 9 o'clock at night for basically the 3 weeks that we kept going. Everyone is super stressed. So expect lapses, right? Expect people not to be perfect. But, try to support everybody in that. Keep working. There's an incredible amount to be done. So kind of what was I feeling during this? This happened on my watch. The extent of the issue, right? The whole world was broken, right? We were getting, message about everything. No one really said anything, nice about me or the company probably for, a good month in the middle there. We were outmatched, we were outnumbered. We were supported, but we were also blamed. So it was a little bit of both in the middle. And you get to a point you're okay with whatever's needed to get done, and whatever needed to get done with my position. So you quickly kind of come to that realization, I've got a job to do, I need to get it done. If that's me or somebody else, that's okay. So months, what happened? So coming up to those weeks, right, we'll say, January 1st. The Christmas holiday was actually a huge help in the middle. So the Christmas holiday ended up letting us catch up. So while the world slows down a little bit between Christmas and New Year's, we catch up. So we're all working, we get information, our documentation, our information that we're publishing, all pretty straight, all, kind of done up well. Our support queue, down from that 18,000 to something that was more manageable. We were able to get across to people. So really that first month was the biggest month for us to get everything ready. About, let's see, when was that? So there was about, let's see, so during February, end of February. So it was interesting that somebody actually said something nice about me. I was doing a call, and the end of February, doing a call. We've gone through, we've communicated a bunch of stuff. We talked to all the industry groups we have. We could talk to all ISACs of the world. We talked to the number of people say, no, Tim, I've never met you, but you talked to me. Is everywhere. But anyway, so I'm doing a conference, and there's 4 people on this conference call for something in U.S. government. And we go through and introduce ourselves, and then a woman on the end who happens to be a ex-House of Representative for West Virginia, I believe. And she said, oh, Tim, can I just interrupt for a minute? Like, oh no, here it comes. And she said, I just want to say thank you. You have done what every vendor we expect to do, what we hope to do. You've shared, you've communicated, you've told us what we need to do. But again, that took a month. That took a month and a half. I'm sorry, that took 2 months before that happened. So you have to be able to, as a culture, be able to force yourself to keep going through things, because it's going to take time. So, I appreciate everything like the CrowdStrike guys are going through now. It's going to take time. It's going to take, effort and time to be able to get through those things. And they need support. Everybody needs support going through there. So be honest, be humble, share what you can, help others. Bring together all your partners and reverberate lessons learned. This is when we started teaching. This is when we started sharing more with all of the companies and all the entities around the world. So many people want to talk to you, but then they just want to know, how can they help? What can go on? And do you have any new information? Is this threat actor after us? And how could we stop that threat actor from coming in? What things should we put into place? So all of that type of stuff happens. Lots of additional research went on. And you have to be prepared for the hard questions, right? So that's one of the things that, if you don't have a hard shell during this thing, you won't be able to survive well. People ask me things like, okay, if Mandiant FireEye didn't find this, this happening, would somebody else have? And the answer was probably no. It was a very thoughtful attack. That attack was hidden. We, again, shipped that code to 18,000 customers and nobody found it. It did things like wait for a month before it started. It was before it executed any malicious code. So it's very, very difficult to find, very hard to find. So we look at it and say, well, who else is out there like that? How much of that type of code is out there that we don't know? I'm sure we were not the only one, but you have to be prepared for the hard question. And use it as an opportunity to become exemplary. Use it as an opportunity so that you can not just be good enough, but truly exemplary. And then continue sharing with as many communities as you can afterwards. So SolarWinds culture, code, and values. So one of the things I didn't mention so our CEO had a planned change. So our old CEO was planning to leave January 1st, right after the incident. So all planned. We had our new CEO lined up. He was going to show up on January 1st, and he did show up. So that's what we were happy about. We weren't sure if he was going to. And Sudhakar Ramakrishnan is our new CEO. Well, not new anymore. He's been there for 3 years. He is probably one of the most human-centric people that I've ever met. He really does care about people. He has a huge human-centric culture. This is some of the things that we developed in January and put out to our teams. So both our culture code and our values, right? Collaborative, accountable, ready, and empathetic. And empathetic's a big one, right? So won't focus on us, but I just wanted to give you a sense of kind of what we've done in the background for things. And these are on our objectives every year. These are what people get rated for their reviews. How do they achieve really the CARE values, and what are they doing to show that they are? So months that follow culture-wise. Secure by Design was our umbrella program across the company, and it did have culture as well as code, as well as a number of things about how we have basically products designed in the right way with security in mind. So next month starts getting done. So the pressure in the next months are a little bit different, right? They're kind of steady state pressure, but with very aggressive goals. We shut down development of new product or new features for about 6 months and focused on security, focused on new build systems where the issue was really inserted. So it's really a change. Backlog got cleaned up. The intensity of the weeks keep going into months, but it's a little bit different. But we have to continue to reinforce the reason for the work, and that's across the company. right? When we look at our, development community and our engineers, right? They were, people ask how they reacted, right? They were really mad. Somebody broke into the house and changed their stuff. And that was just, unheard of. They have a lot of pride in their code that they wrote. And for somebody to do that became personal. So that kind of culture emphasis there lasted a while. But about 6 months is when people started getting tired of saying, well, we're just doing security. We're just doing security. We need to do, cool new features. So we got 6 months of that, and then we started doing features again. Then we have to continue to reinforce the security culture ongoing as a regular basis. So what was I feeling after months, right? I'm keeping my job. I'm needed everywhere. Yes, somebody at RSA asked Sudhakar, well, why didn't you fire Tim? And what he said, well, so if I was gonna hire somebody, I'd hire Tim. So why would I fire him? So good answer. How do I help customers and the whole industry, right? So now we shift to how do we help the industry? How do we help the industry understand what's going on? How do we help the industry become more resilient? All of those things shifted to an industry focus. Continue to be as transparent as possible and share as much as possible with everybody. And, some appreciation from many different sources. So years have been interesting. So remember, this was 2020, so we're coming up on 3.5 years right now. So one of the big things that really we've started to focus on, right, is we'll correct inaccuracies in press now. We wouldn't do that before. We've reached as many communities and people across the world as we can. We continue to try to be exemplary in our approach, invest in secure by design, and really overall try to increase the way that people build software, right? How do we influence the way that people build software so that it is really secure by design? So a lot of work with government entities, a lot of work with others. And it's work, right? So when people question whether culture is important, whether it works, to come through an incident and have renewal rates over 90% or 95%, do those types of things is important. So we could have hidden, we could have put our head in the sand, not come out, not been transparent, not worked with others, not shared with community. But doing it has gained us a lot of respect across many, many folks. One of the, I was talking in an AFCEA conference, I think, let's see, probably maybe all last year. So that's a U.S. Army conference down in Augusta. And I do a talk, somewhat similar to this. And, a guy with 4 stars on his collar says, hey, Tim, can I have the mic? Yes, sir. And he picks up the mic and he says, this is the way all vendors should be. They should share, they should talk, they should communicate to you. Tim called me after the incident, the day of the incident, called me the week after, the month after, kept me up to date on everything that was going on. We're a proud customer of them, and we will be forever, right? This is what they did, right? And that's the expectation for many. So it takes time. Everything takes time. Use the event as a catalyst for good. The executive order, cybersecurity strategy, all of these things came out of our incident. Be prepared for legal actions. The legal actions take a long time. Use the events to elevate the CISO position, develop communities, be not just good, but exemplary as much as you can. So one of our biggest challenge is all the legal hurdles, right? Can't go into details on the legal hurdles, but as many of you know, the SEC had charges against us and charges against me in particular. And we've been working through those, but they take time. So anytime anybody goes through an incident, you have to expect legal. So you have to expect to have legal hold begins on week 1. So as soon as you start to have something, legal hold starts. And then you start going through processes. If you're a public company, you have, and your stock price moves in the wrong direction after something, you'll get class action suits. So it's just a fact for US-centric companies that this happen. Those are some of the external factors that kind of keep us from moving forward. But support the process, trust in the process, something good will end up happening. Align with great teams. And those great teams can be legal teams and external counsels that help you through the process. Look for good to occur from your experience. So I have a couple dates there. So December 12th was the incident. So initial wells happened about October 22nd. So in a wells notice means the SEC is considering bringing charges against people. Okay, so that, when I was on the list there, just sparked a lot of things from the CISO community. It sparked things of, am I covered? Will I have to pay for this myself? Do I have the appropriate insurance? Do I have the appropriate coverage? Because, a number of lawyers get extremely expensive. So that sparked a whole wave of CISOs going out and asking and figuring it out. It's also sparked a lot of things from the board perspective. So boards across the world start saying, okay, if this happens to us, are we covered? What will we do? So initial wells occurred. Then September 2023, is when the complaint was actually filed and charges against me and the company came about. So again, public knowledge, nothing that's private here. And we go back and forth, the legal teams go back and forth. And then just last month, in July, the judge, we file motions to dismiss throughout the period. The judge dismissed many of those charges. So big win for us, but goes on to the next stage now. So really what in this case is why culture is important. Company fully behind me, company fully working together. Culture is a culture of support. Without those things, we wouldn't be able to move forward. And then a culture, again, sharing, right? How do I help the CISO community, the security community move forward with these types of things is by having, appropriate lessons that they know and be able to kind of move forward, learn from it, and grow. So looking back, wish I had past experience with a major incident, more testing, more simulation of this type of scenario. We had good relationships, but they could have been better, right? Those relationships externally could have been better. More knowledge of the legal process. The legal process was all new. So that would have been great to have. I really wish I knew everything I know now then. It would have prepared me better. So what's kept me going? The support of the company, employees, the leadership, the community, right? The community support from CISOs has been pretty incredible, right? And industry groups and, many individuals. So some good has come from our situation, more attention to security, more support for the CISO, stronger communities, more transparency, and stronger and more resilient companies, across the globe. So we've all been looking at how do we get better. I'll include another one, which is, new lessons on how to build software, right? And what to expect from your software providers, and then how to evaluate them. So I have time for some questions. I have 6 minutes.
So while they're going around, I'm going to pop one that was really popular on Slack. It's from somebody internally. Start going around. But Hannah asks a great question, Tim. How did you communicate or empower your non-cyber employees to rally around you and provide the company the support needed?
Yeah, great question. So we always have had a very tight employee culture, and or we try to, right? And people took it as a personal assault, right? This entity attacked us. How can we help? That was the first thing we heard from every employee was, how can we help? Whether that help was getting on, we had people that were not in support taking calls. We had everybody in the company trying to help customers. So I don't think we had to do much to rally them. With an event like this, I think you get rallied together, right? And I think internally we communicated what was going on, and that kind of spurred everybody across the company to, kind of step up and want to help.
Thank you for this and your transparency. It's incredible, and it's really helpful to see the step by step. I worked in an organization that around the same time we also experienced a breach, and at the time, awareness and the culture became big. They put in resources, and it was really exciting, and everybody was growing, and we were implementing programs. And then as time goes, you lose steam. How do you guys maintain that momentum, and how do you keep it important and top of mind?
Great question. So I think one of the ways that we keep important is a tactical way, is simply that we have, inside your reviews, we're looking at how you do your care values. We're looking at how you're being exemplary there. We have teams that are working on culture kind of across the company, trying to reinforce. My team does a lot of reinforcement. But you're absolutely correct. After the initial bang, how do you keep that motion going, right? And there's a number of one of the things that we've seen work well is to do, personalized training for each of the departments and not keep it generic, and use examples from both outside as well as examples inside to be able to continue to reinforce it. The other part that kind of reinforces things is that, the importance to the exec team and the importance to the board. That's very well known and comes up in a lot of the communications from the exec team as well. So all of those things help, right? But it's not easy. There's no magic bullet, right? You just have to keep kind of working through it, and always it's constant work keeping it, top of mind.
Hi, thank you for this. In the initial days and weeks of the incident, how were you able to utilize your security awareness people? Usually in the heat of a breach, our role is not typically involved. Did you bring these people in to help you?
Yeah, so we brought external and internal people to help. So days and weeks are just so busy right after an incident. When I say augment, right? So we brought in Chris Krebs and Alex Damos. Alex was ex-CISO for Facebook. We brought in a number of different kind of helpers on the outside. From the culture side, we tried to reinforce messages internally to the teams and be able to communicate to them, just like we're communicating to the outside what we know, communicating to the inside what we know. So a little bit different in the first few weeks than what it built up in the first couple months. The first few weeks are just a little bit of, very crazy.
Thank you very much for your testimony. So everybody here in this audience knows that what you have experienced is just a matter of time for everybody as a customer or provider for any sort of services. Looking at your testimony, it looks like at the very beginning of the incident, you've been basically building the plane while flying it in terms of how you reacted to it. Most of the big companies or organizations here, they probably have cyber incident response plan they're working on, and they're trying to simulate such incident. How far from what everything you have simulated this incident was, and how much adaptation you had to do to cope with it? Because it looks like it was not expecting at all to have that type of incident. Thank you. And what is the takeaway on that?
So, sorry, I think I've got the question right. So it's from a planning perspective, a modeling perspective, how close we are. We modeled our small incidents well, so those were easy. These are larger, more complex incidents are so far off from what your normal day in, day out work is. It's important to bring the right people in. It's important to have the right help. But I think we can do a better job modeling major incidents. They just come in different flavors, right? This incident would have been very different if those 18,000 customers had all been shut down, or those 18,000 customers had malware deployed on their systems, right? The fallout from the world would have been very, very different than a certain set of customers were affected in a different way. So it's important that you model a number of different aspects. It's important that you plan for those. It's important that you have that in your back pocket. But one of the most important things is having relationships, right? Can the people that are working the incident trust each other? Can the people that are working the incident step away enough to allow others to do their job? Can they manage this process in the right way? And do they have that kind of mutual respect and culture across the company plan to be able to say, okay, we've got this, we're going through this, we will get through it. Everybody please help. We'll all do our jobs, and yeah, we'll move forward. If you can establish that early, if you can establish that type of model beforehand, then you'll be much better prepared for kind of if and when something like this happens. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.